There are moments in time that feel ordinary until something inside you pauses. Not your body, not your routine, but your spirit. And this, right now, is one of those moments. This is not just another message passing through your screen. This is not random timing. This is not coincidence wrapped in curiosity. No, this is something deeper. Something intentional. Something that found you because it was meant to find you. Because June 29, 2026 carries a weight your natural mind may not fully understand yet, but your spirit recognizes it. You may not even know why you clicked. You may not even remember what you were doing just seconds before this. But something pulled you here. And that something's not accidental. It's divine. Because there has been a quiet question living inside you, hasn't there? A question you don't always say out loud, but you feel it. Why am I still alone? Why do things keep almost happening but never fully aligning? Why does it feel like love is close but never stays? You've asked it in silence. You've carried it through days where you smiled on the outside but questioned everything on the inside. And here's the truth that changes everything. You are not waiting because you are forgotten. You are not delayed because you are unworthy. You are not alone because something is wrong with you. You are here in this exact moment because something is being prepared. Not just for you, but for the one who is meant to meet you. And this is where most people misunderstand their season. Because what feels like delay is actually divine orchestration. What feels like isolation is actually spiritual alignment. What feels like nothing happening is actually everything happening, just not where you can see it yet. Right now, in a place you cannot access with your physical eyes, God is working on someone. Someone who carries a connection to your future. Someone whose path is being shaped just like yours. Someone whose heart is being refined just like yours. And the reason you have not met yet is not because it's not meant to happen. It's because it must happen right. There are things that must break first. There are wounds that must heal first. There are identities that must be rebuilt first. Because if you met too early, you would recognize each other, but you would not be ready for each other. And that's the part no one talks about. You've experienced connections before, haven't you? Ones that felt intense. Ones that felt real. Ones that made you believe this could be it. But something always shifted. Something always collapsed. Something always revealed itself too late. And you were left wondering why. But what if those moments were not failures? What if they were previews, lessons, preparations for something far more aligned than anything you've experienced before? Because June 29, 2026 marks a spiritual checkpoint. A moment where heaven is not just observing your journey, it is actively repositioning it. There is a transition happening. Not loudly, not visibly, but powerfully. You may feel it as restlessness. You may feel it as emotional detachment from things that used to matter. You may feel it as a sudden clarity or even confusion. But it's not random. It's the beginning of separation from what no longer aligns and preparation for what finally will. And here is what you must understand right now. The wilderness you are in is not empty. It is active. It is intentional. It is sacred. Because while you are questioning the silence, God is constructing something that requires that silence. While you are wondering when, God is deciding how. And how it happened matters more than when it happens. Because this connection, this divine counterpart, is not meant to repeat your past. It is meant to answer it. So don't write this moment. Don't try to escape this season. Because what feels like stillness is actually alignment in motion. And this message right now is your confirmation. You are not behind. You are not overlooked. You are not forgotten. You are being positioned. And something someone is being prepared at the same time. But before that connection can arrive, something must happen within you first. And in the next part you will begin to understand why the wilderness is not your delay, it is your transformation. Type "I am in divine timing" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 2929 is now lining your path. There is a part of this journey that feels the heaviest, and if you are honest, it is the part you have questioned the most. It is the quiet season. In between. The place where nothing seems to move, nothing seems to change, and yet everything inside you feels like it is shifting all at once. This is the wilderness. And the first thing you must understand, truly understand, is this. You are not here because you did something wrong. You are not here because you failed. You are not here because you are being punished. You are here because you are being prepared. The wilderness has a language that most people misinterpret. It does not speak through noise. It does not explain itself with clarity. It does not give you constant reassurance. Instead, it stretches you. It removes distractions. It pulls you away from what is familiar so that you can finally see what has been forming beneath the surface of your life. And that is why it feels uncomfortable. That is why it feels unfamiliar. Because you are no longer being shaped by your past patterns. You are being reshaped for your future alignment. You may have noticed that certain connections have faded without explanation. Conversations that once flowed easily now feel forced. People who once felt close now feel distant. And it leaves you wondering what changed. But the truth is, something did change. You did. Your awareness shifted. Your standards evolved. Your spirit began to outgrow environments that once felt normal to you. And the wilderness is where that separation becomes clear. It is where you begin to see that not everything that felt right was actually aligned. This is where many people try to escape. They rush to fill the silence. They return to old habits. They reconnect with people who were never meant to stay. They distract themselves just to avoid feeling the weight of being alone. But what they don't realize is that every time they escape the wilderness, they delay what the wilderness was trying to build within them. Because this season is not empty. It is active. It is doing something within you that cannot be rushed and cannot be skipped. There are parts of you being refined right now that your future connection will depend on. Your emotional patterns are being exposed. Your attachment habits are being revealed. The way you respond to silence, the way you handle uncertainty, the way you define your worth when no one is affirming you, all of it is being brought to the surface. Not to break you, but to rebuild you. Because the version of you that enters your destined connection cannot be the same version that tolerated confusion, inconsistency, or emotional instability in the past. The wilderness is where you learn to stand without needing validation. It is where you learn to feel whole without needing constant attention. It is where you learn to trust without needing immediate proof. And these lessons are not optional. They are necessary. Because if you enter your divine connection still carrying insecurity, still seeking validation, still reacting from old wounds, you will not be able to sustain what God is trying to give you. The connection will feel right, but it will not last. Not because it was wrong, but because you were not yet ready to hold it. And this is why the wilderness often feels longer than you expected. Because preparation is not based on your timeline. It is based on your transformation. You may think you are ready, but God sees deeper. God sees the patterns you have not fully broken, the fears you have not fully released, the identity you have not fully stepped into yet. And out of protection, not delay, He keeps you in the wilderness until what is within you matches what is being prepared for you. There is also something else happening here that you cannot ignore. The wilderness is not only removing what no longer aligns, it is strengthening your discernment. You are learning to recognize what is real and what is temporary. You are learning to feel the difference between emotional intensity and genuine alignment. You are learning to slow down, to observe, to listen, to trust your inner clarity instead of rushing into what feels good in the moment. And this is what will protect your future connection from becoming another lesson instead of a lasting reality. So if this season feels quiet, it is not because nothing is happening. If it feels lonely, it is not because you are alone. If it feels uncertain, it is not because you are lost. It is because you are being recalibrated. Every moment of stillness is aligning something within you. Every moment of discomfort is strengthening something you will need later. Every moment of separation is making space for what is meant to stay. You are not stuck. You are being positioned. And the wilderness is not your punishment. It is your preparation for something that cannot arrive until you are fully ready to receive it. Type "I trust the wilderness" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 3030 is now strengthening your transformation. There is something happening right now that you cannot see, cannot hear, and cannot confirm with your physical senses, and yet it is just as real as the ground beneath your feet. While you are in your wilderness, learning, healing, and being reshaped, there is another process unfolding simultaneously. Not around you, not through you, love for you. Because the truth is this: you are not the only one being prepared. At this very moment, somewhere in a different environment, under a different set of circumstances, your divine counterpart is also being refined. They are being stretched in ways they may not fully understand. They are facing lessons they cannot avoid. They are being pulled away from patterns that no longer serve them, just as you are. And just like you, they may be questioning their own timing, their own path, their own sense of direction. Because divine preparation rarely feels clear while it is happening. This is the part that requires your trust the most. Because it is easy to believe in your own process. You can feel it. You can reflect on it. You can see your own growth. But believing that someone else is being prepared at the same time, without any visible evidence, requires a deeper level of faith. It requires you to trust that what is meant for you is not static. It is moving. It is evolving. It is being shaped with intention. Your counterpart is not waiting idly for you. They are not living unchanged while you do all the work. They are being confronted with their own patterns, their own emotional wounds, their own habits of avoidance, attachment, or fear. They are being brought face to face with the parts of themselves that would have conflicted with who you are becoming now. Because if only one of you grows while the other remains the same, the connection would collapse under the weight of imbalance. Think about your past. Think about the connections that almost worked but didn't. In many of those situations, one of you was ready while the other was not. One of you had clarity while the other carried confusion. One of you had depth while the other remained surface level. And no matter how strong the initial connection felt, it could not sustain itself because both people were not aligned at the same level of awareness. That is exactly what God is preventing now. Because this connection is not meant to be another almost. It is not meant to be another cycle of intensity followed by distance. It is not meant to be another lesson disguised as love. It is meant to be stable, aligned, and lasting. And that kind of connection requires both individuals to meet each other from a place of readiness, not potential. Your counterpart is being taught things right now that will directly impact how they show up for you. They are learning how to communicate with clarity instead of avoidance. They are learning how to handle emotional responsibility instead of deflecting it. They are learning how to recognize real connection instead of chasing temporary feelings. And these lessons are not easy. They are not comfortable, but they are necessary. At the same time, there are things being removed from their life that would have interfered with your connection. Just as you have experienced distance, endings, and unexpected shifts, so have they. Just as you have been pulled away from what was familiar, so have they. And even if they do not fully understand why certain things are falling apart in their life, it is happening for the same reason it is happening for you, to create space. Because two lives cannot come together fully if they are still entangled in what no longer belongs. There is also a timing that must be honored. If you were to meet them too early, you might recognize the connection, but you would not experience its fullness. There would still be resistance. There would still be misunderstanding. There would still be unhealed parts on both sides trying to navigate something that requires wholeness. And instead of becoming something lasting, it would become another situation that ends prematurely. So the separation you feel right now is not distance for the sake of distance. It is alignment in progress. Every lesson you are learning is being mirrored in a different way in their life. Every shift you are making is creating a parallel shift within them. And even though your paths have not crossed yet, your journeys are not separate. They are synchronized. Quietly. Precisely. Intentionally. This is why you must not rush this process. Because you are not waiting alone. You are being aligned together. And when the time comes, it will not feel forced. It will not feel confusing. It will not feel like something you have to chase or question constantly. It will feel clear, grounded, turtle. Not because it is perfect, but because both of you will have done the internal work required to recognize it for what it truly is. So trust this part of the journey, even when it feels invisible, even when it feels uncertain, even when it feels like nothing is happening. Because something is happening, not just within you, but within them too. Type "We are being aligned" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 3131 is now activating divine synchronization. And as this truth settles into your spirit, understand this: what is happening between you and your divine counterpart is not just personal. It is part of a greater movement of restoration, alignment, and purpose. Every message like this is a seed being sown into hearts that are searching, into souls that are waiting for confirmation that God has not forgotten them. When you choose to support this mission through Super Thanks or through the PayPal link in the description, you are not giving to a platform. You are helping light reach someone still lost in their wilderness. The word says, "Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy." And right now, your seed becomes a river that carries truth into places darkness tried to silence. If you feel that stirring within you, this is your moment. Step into it with intention. Your giving is not small. It is prophetic. It opens doors. It releases flow. It multiplies impact far beyond what you can see. So act now, so boldly, and become part of what heaven is doing through this message. There is a deeper layer to your wilderness that cannot be ignored. And if you are honest with yourself, you have already begun to feel it. It is not just the silence. It is not just the distance. It is the detachment. The slow, sometimes painful realization that certain people, certain memories, and certain emotional connection no longer hold the same place in your life that they once did. And while part of you may feel relief, another part of you feels confusion. Because you are not just losing people, you are losing versions of yourself that existed within those connections. This is the breaking of soul ties, and it is one of the most necessary, yet most uncomfortable parts of your preparation. Because not every connection you have experienced was meant to last. Some were meant to teach you. Some were meant to reveal parts of yourself you had not yet seen. Some were meant to mirror your wounds so that you could finally recognize them. But what many people do not understand is that even when those connections end physically, they often remain emotionally, energetically, spiritually, and those lingering attachments can quietly influence your thoughts, your decisions, and your readiness for what is coming next. You may have noticed this in subtle ways. Moments where your mind drifts back to someone you thought you had moved on from. Emotions that resurface without warning. Patterns of comparison. Lingering questions about what could have been. These are not random thoughts. They are remnants of emotional ties that have not been fully released. And as long as they remain, they occupy space that your future connection requires. Because you cannot fully receive something new while still being emotionally connected to what has already ended. This is where many people unknowingly block their own alignment. They say they are ready for something real, something stable, something lasting. But internally, they are still holding on to unresolved feelings from the past. Still carrying expectations shaped by previous experiences. Still reacting from wounds that were never fully healed. And when something new begins to form, those unresolved attachments begin to interfere. They create doubt where there should be clarity. They create fear where there should be trust. They create resistance where there should be openness. That is why this breaking is happening now. Not later. Not after you meet your counterpart. But before. Because your future connection cannot compete with your past. It cannot fight for space against unresolved emotions. It cannot grow in an environment where old attachments are still influencing your present mindset. And so, the wilderness begins to strip those ties away. Totally. Intentionally. Completely. This is why certain memories feel different now. Why conversations replay in your mind with a new level of awareness. Why you are beginning to see things you once ignored. It is not to pull you backward. It is to help you finally release what you were never meant to carry forward. There are also deeper emotional patterns tied to these connections that must be addressed. The way you attach. The way you tolerated inconsistency. The way you overlooked red flags because of emotional intensity. The way you stayed longer than you should have because you believed something would change. All of these patterns are being brought to the surface not to shame you but to free you. Because the version of you that enters your destined connection cannot be the same version that accepted less than what was aligned. You are being taught to recognize the difference between connection and attachment. Between love and dependency, between presence and inconsistency. And these distinctions are critical, because without them, you could encounter something real and still misinterpret it through the lens of your past experiences. There is also a spiritual aspect to this that you must understand. Every connection you have had has left an imprint, not just emotionally but energetically. And those imprints can influence how you perceive new situations. They can create subconscious expectations. They can shape your reactions without you even realizing it. And until those imprints are cleared, they will continue to affect your ability to fully experience something new. So what you are feeling right now is not regression. It is release. It is the process of untangling yourself from what no longer aligns so that you can stand fully present in what does. It is the process of reclaiming your emotional space, your mental clarity, your spiritual alignment. And yes, it can feel heavy at times, because letting go is not just about others. It is about letting go of the parts of you that were attached to them. But this is where your freedom begins. Because once those ties are fully broken, something shifts. You no longer feel pulled backward. You no longer feel divided between past and future. You become fully present, fully aware, fully available for what is meant to enter your life. And that is exactly what this preparation is leading you toward. Not partial readiness, not conditional openness, but complete alignment. So do not resist this process. Do not try to hold on to what is clearly being released. Do not revisit what has already shown you its limitations, because every attachment that is breaking now is creating space for something that will not require you to question, chase, or compromise your growth. You are not losing anything meant for you. You are being freed from everything that was not. Type "I release the past" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 4141 is now clearing your emotional path. There is a kind of silence that unsettles you more than noise ever could. It is not loud. It does not demand your attention. But it lingers. It stretches across your days and settles into your nights. And if you are honest, this is the part of your journey that has tested you the most. Because silence has a way of making you question everything. It makes you wonder if something is missing, if something has gone wrong, if something hath been forgotten. But what you are experiencing right now is not absence. It is not abandonment. It is strategy. The silence you feel is intentional. It is not there to confuse you. It is there to refine you. Because when everything is quiet, when there are no constant distractions, no emotional highs, no external validation to lean on, you are left with something deeper, your own awareness, your own thoughts, your own patterns. And this is where true transformation begins. Because as long as there is noise, you can avoid what needs to be addressed. You can distract yourself from what is unresolved. You can fill the space with temporary comfort. But silence removes that option. It brings everything to the surface. You may have noticed how certain thoughts have become clearer in this season. How certain truths you once ignored are now impossible to overlook. How your intuition has become sharper, even if it feels uncomfortable at times. That is not accidental. That is what silence does. It strips away the excess and leaves you with clarity. Not always the kind you want, but the kind you need. This is also where your discernment is being strengthened. Because in the absence of noise, you begin to recognize the difference between what is real and what is imagined. Between what is aligned and what is forced. Between what feels right in the moment and what is actually right for your future. And this distinction is critical. Because your next connection will require you to trust what you sense, not just what you see. In your past, there may have been moments where you ignored your inner knowing. Moments where something felt off, but you chose to continue anyway. Moments where you convinced yourself that things would improve, even when the signs were clear. That is not a failure. That is part of your growth. But now, in this season of silence, those patterns are being corrected. You are learning to listen without interference. You are learning to observe without reacting immediately. You are learning to trust your inner clarity instead of seeking external confirmation. And this is what will protect your future connection from becoming another cycle of confusion. Because when something real enters your life, it will not need to compete with noise. It will not need to prove itself constantly. It will not rely on intensity to feel meaningful. It will be steady. You will be clear. And you will recognize it, not because it overwhelms you, but because it aligns with the clarity you have developed in this silence. There is also something else happening here that you may not have fully realized yet. The silence is teaching you emotional stability. It is teaching you how to exist without constant stimulation, how to feel grounded without needing immediate responses, constant communication, or continuous reassurance. And this is essential. Because a healthy connection is not built on constant intensity. It is built on consistency, trust, and space. If you are not comfortable in silence now, you will struggle to trust stability later. That is why this season is necessary. It is not removing connection from your life. It is redefining your relationship with it. It is showing you that your peace does not come from someone else's presence. It comes from your own alignment. It is showing you that your worth is not determined by how often someone reaches out, how much attention you receive, or how quickly things move. It is determined by how grounded you remain within yourself, regardless of external circumstances. And this is where your strength is being built. Because when the right connection arrives, you will not approach it from a place of need. You will approach it from a place of stability. You will not fear silence within that connection. You will understand it. You will not react impulsively to uncertainty. You will observe it with clarity. You will not seek validation in every moment. You will trust what is being built over time. That is what this silence is preparing you for. So if this season feels quiet, do not mistake it for emptiness. If it feels still, do not assume nothing is happening. If it feels distant, do not believe you have been forgotten. Because in this silence, something powerful is taking place. You are becoming someone who no longer needs noise to feel secure. You are becoming someone who can recognize truth without confusion. You are becoming someone who can hold something real without fear of losing it. And that is exactly why this silence is necessary. Type "I trust the silence" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 5151 is now strengthening your discernment. There is a reason this process has not been easy. There is a reason the time it has felt delayed, the emotions have felt intense, and the journey has felt heavier than you expected. And it is not because something is wrong with you. It is not because you are being denied. It is because what is being prepared carries weight, and carrying purpose. And anything that carries purpose will always encounter resistance. You must understand this clearly. Not everything you have experienced has been random. Not every delay has been natural. Not every emotional disruption has been accidental. There had been opposition. Not always obvious, not always dramatic, but precise. Strategic. Subtle enough to go unnoticed, but strong enough to influence your direction if you are not aware of it. Because this connection you are being prepared for is not ordinary. It is not just about companionship. It is not just about attraction or shared interests. It is about alignment. It is about two individuals coming together at a level that creates stability, growth, and impact. And that kind of union does not just affect your life. It affects everything connected to it. Your decisions, your direction, your future environment. And that is exactly why it is resisted. The resistance does not always come in the form of obvious obstacles. Sometimes it appears as distraction, as confusion, as emotional entanglements that pull your focus away from your growth, as connections that feel right for a moment but ultimately lead you away from alignment, as doubts that make you question your own timing, as impatience that tempts you to settle for what is available instead of waiting for what is right. You may have experienced moments where you were about to move forward, about to make progress, about to step into something new, and suddenly, something disrupted your focus. Something unexpected appeared. A distraction, a person, a situation that pulled your energy in a different direction. And at the time, it may have seemed like coincidence. But when you look back, you begin to see a pattern. Because the closer you get to alignment, the stronger the resistance becomes. Not to stop you completely, but to redirect you just enough to delay you. This is why awareness is critical in this season. Because not every opportunity is alignment. Not every connection is meant to be explored. Not every feeling is meant to be followed. And not every delay is meant to be resisted. Some delays are protection. Some interruptions are redirection. Some endings are necessary to prevent something misaligned from continuing. But if you are not aware of what is happening, you can easily misinterpret these moments. You can chase what was meant to pass. You can resist what was meant to protect you. You can hold on to what was meant to be released. And in doing so, you unintentionally prolong the very process you are trying to move through. This is where your growth from the previous sections becomes essential. Because the silence you have learned to trust, the discernment you have developed, the attachments you have begun to release, all of these are your tools in navigating this resistance. They allow you to pause instead of react, to observe instead of assume, to choose alignment instead of familiarity. There is also something deeper happening that you must not overlook. The resistance is not just external. It can also appear internally, through doubt, through fear, through the quiet voice that tells you to settle, to rush, to accept less, because it feels easier than waiting. These internal patterns are often rooted in past experiences, in moments where things did not work out, where trust was broken, where expectations were not met. And if left unaddressed, they can become the very thing that interferes with what is trying to enter your life now. Because even when something aligned appears, your response to it will be shaped by what you believe, not just what you see. If you still carry fear, you may question something that is actually stable. If you still carry doubt, you may hesitate in a moment that requires openness. If you still carry unresolved patterns, you may react in ways that recreate past outcomes. This is why the preparation has been so thorough. Because this connection is not meant to be disrupted by what you have already overcome. It is meant to be supported by it. So the resistance you have felt is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something significant is being protected. And you are being positioned to recognize the difference between what is aligned and what is simply available. Because when this connection arrives, it will not come with confusion. It will not come with instability. It will not come with constant questioning. It will come with clarity. But only if you have learned to see clearly. And that is exactly what this season has been preparing you for. So do not be discouraged by what you have faced. Do not question your path because it has been challenging. Do not assume delay means denial. Because what is being prepared is not something that can be rushed or easily replaced. It is something that must be protected until the right moment. And that moment is closer than you think. Type "I discern the difference" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 6161 is now strengthening your spiritual awareness. There comes a point in this journey where it is no longer about what is leaving your life, no longer about what is being delayed, and no longer about what is happening around you. It becomes about what is happening within you. And this is the part that cannot be bypassed, negotiated, or postponed. This is the inner transformation you cannot avoid. Because as much as you may desire the connection, as much as you may feel ready on the surface, there are deeper layers within you that must be addressed before you can fully step into what is being prepared. Not because you are lacking, but because you are evolving. And evolution requires change at a level that is not always comfortable, not always visible, but always necessary. You may have noticed that your perspective has been shifting. The things that once attracted you no longer hold the same appeal. The behaviors you once tolerated now feel misaligned. The conversations you once entertained now feel draining. This is not confusion. This is clarity. This is the result of your inner world being recalibrated to match the level of connection you are being prepared for. Because the truth is, your external reality will always reflect your internal state. If you still carry unresolved insecurity, you will attract situations that trigger it. If you still operate from fear, you will interpret situations through that lens. If you still seek validation, you will be drawn to connections that keep you in that cycle. And this is exactly what is being transformed within you right now. Your identity is being strengthened. You are being moved from a place of seeking to a place of knowing, from a place of reacting to a place of responding, from a place of uncertainty to a place of grounded awareness. And this shift is not subtle. It affects the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you show up in every interaction. It changes what you accept, what you question, and what you walk away from without hesitation. There is also an emotional maturity being developed within you that is essential for what is coming. You are learning how to hold your emotions without being controlled by them, how to process your thoughts without immediately acting on them, how to remain steady even when something feels uncertain. And this stability is what will allow your future connection to grow without being disrupted by unnecessary reactions or misunderstandings. Because in your past, there may have been moments where emotions dictated your decisions, where intensity was mistaken for depth, where inconsistency was tolerated because of temporary feelings. But now, you are being taught to recognize the difference. You are being taught to value consistency over intensity, clarity over assumption, and stability over unpredictability. This is the transformation, and it is happening whether you consciously recognize it or not. There is also a shift in your sense of self-worth that is taking place. You are no longer measuring your value based on external validation. You are no longer defining yourself by how others respond to you. You are beginning to understand that your worth is constant, regardless of who stays or who leaves, regardless of how situations unfold. And this understanding changes everything. Because when you know your worth, you do not settle for less than alignment. You do not chase what is unclear. You do not hold on to what is inconsistent. You do not question your place in something that is meant for you. And this is exactly the mindset required for the connection you are moving toward. There is also a level of accountability being developed within you. A willingness to recognize your own patterns, your own reactions, your own areas of growth, not from a place of self-criticism but from a place of self-awareness. Because true alignment requires both individuals to take responsibility for how they show up. And this is what ensures that your future connection is not built on projection, expectation, or assumption, but on understanding, communication, and mutual growth. So if this season feels intense internally, if it feels like you are constantly being shown new aspects of yourself, if it feels like you are being stretched in ways you did not anticipate, it is because this transformation is active. It is shaping you into someone who can not only attract the right connection but sustain it. Someone who can recognize alignment without second-guessing it. Someone who can engage in a relationship without losing themselves within it. And this is why it cannot be avoided. Because without this transformation, the connection would not hold. It might begin, it might feel right, but it would not last. And what is being prepared for you is not temporary. It is meant to remain. So allow this process to continue. Allow yourself to grow beyond what is familiar. Allow yourself to release what no longer aligns. Because every shift within you is bringing you closer to the moment where everything aligns externally as well. You are not becoming someone new. You are becoming who you were always meant to be. And that is exactly who your divine counterpart is meant to meet. Type "I am transforming" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 7171 is now activating your inner alignment. There is a tension you have likely felt more than once in this journey, and it is the tension between what you desire and what is unfolding. It is the space between knowing something is meant for you and not yet seeing it materialize. And in that space, something begins to rise within you. Urgency. A desire to move things forward. A need for answers. A quiet pressure that whispers, "Why not now?" But this is where one of the most important lessons of your transformation is being formed. Because what you feel as urgency is not always alignment. And what you perceive as delay is not always denial. There is a difference between your timing and divine timing, and understanding that difference will determine how you move through this season. Human urgency is driven by emotion. It is influenced by comparison, by past experiences, by moments where things almost worked and you wanted them to last. It is shaped by the discomfort of waiting, by the desire for certainty, by the need to feel like something is progressing. And while these feelings are natural, they are not always accurate indicators of readiness. Because readiness is not determined by how much you want something. It is determined by how prepared you are to sustain it. Divine timing operates differently. It is not influenced by pressure, by impatience, or by external expectations. It is precise. It accounts for every detail you cannot see. It aligns not just your readiness, but the readiness of the person you are meant to meet, the environment in which you will connect, and the circumstances that will allow that connection to grow without unnecessary interference. And this is why waiting becomes necessary, not because something is being withheld from you, but because something is being built for you. There have likely been moments in your past where things moved quickly, where a connection formed almost instantly, where emotions intensified before understanding was fully established. And while those experiences may have felt powerful in the moment, they often lacked stability. They lacked the foundation required to last. And eventually, something within them revealed that they were not fully aligned. That is what divine timing prevents. It removes the rush. It removes the pressure. It removes the need to force something into place before it is ready. And instead, it allows everything to come together at a pace that ensures clarity, stability, and mutual alignment. This is also why you may feel a slowing down in this season. Not just externally, but internally. You are being guided away from impulsive decisions, away from chasing immediate gratification, away from reacting to temporary emotions. You are being taught to pause, to observe, to trust the process even when it does not match your expectations. Because if you rush what is meant to be aligned, you risk misinterpreting it. You risk stepping into something prematurely. You risk repeating patterns that you have already outgrown. And this is not just about avoiding the wrong connection. It is about protecting the right one. Because when the right connection arrives, it will require a level of patience, awareness, and emotional stability that cannot coexist with urgency. It will not thrive in an environment of pressure. It will not grow under constant questioning. It will not sustain itself if it is forced to meet expectations before it has had time to develop naturally. This is why your waiting is not passive. It is active. Every moment you choose not to rush, you are reinforcing your alignment. Every moment you choose not to settle, you are strengthening your standards. Every moment you choose to trust instead of control, you are allowing divine timing to unfold without interference. And there is something else you must understand about this waiting. It is not indefinite. It is not without direction. It is moving toward a specific moment where everything aligns in a way that could not have happened earlier. A moment where both you and your counterpart are ready, not just individually, but together. A moment where the connection does not need to be questioned, because it is clear. A moment where the timing itself confirms that it is right. So if you feel the urge to rush, to force, to seek immediate answers, pause. Recognize that what you are feeling is part of the process, not a signal to override it. Because what is meant for you is not lost in the waiting. It is being perfected through it. And when it arrives, it will not feel late. It will feel right. Type "I trust divine timing" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 8181 is now aligning your path with perfect timing. And as you begin to understand the power of divine timing, recognize this: every message like this is a seed planted in the wilderness of someone else who is still waiting, still searching, still asking God for clarity. When you sow into this mission through Super Thanks or through the PayPal link in the description, you are not just supporting content. You are watering seeds that will grow into transformation in someone else's life. The word declares that when you give, it is returned to you pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing, and this is not symbolic. It is a living promise over your obedience. If you feel that inner nudge, this is your moment to respond, not casually, but prophetically. Your seed becomes light in someone's darkness, direction in someone's confusion, hope in someone's wilderness. So act now, give with intention, and align yourself with what God is multiplying through this message. There comes a moment in this journey where something begins to shift, not loudly, not dramatically, but unmistakably. It is subtle at first, almost easy to overlook if you are not paying attention. But if you are present, if you are aware, if you have truly allowed the previous stages of your transformation to take root within you, you will begin to recognize it. Because before your divine counterpart physically enters your life, there are signs, not external confirmations that you can easily point to, but internal shifts that prepare you to recognize what is coming. The first sign is a sense of emotional neutrality that you may not have experienced before. The urgency that once drove your thoughts begins to quiet. The need to constantly question when starts to fade. You are no longer pulled into cycles of overthinking or emotional highs and lows when it comes to connection. Instead, here is a steadiness, a calm awareness that replaces the intensity you once associated with attraction. And this calm is not emptiness. It is alignment. Because when something real is approaching, you do not feel chaos. You feel clarity. You may also notice that your attachment to the outcome begins to loosen. Not because you have given up, but because you have reached a point where you trust the process more than you try to control it. You are no longer searching for signs in every interaction. You are no longer trying to force meaning into situations that are not aligned. You are no longer entertaining connections that do not meet your standard, simply to avoid being alone. That shift is significant, because it indicates that you are no longer operating from lack. You are operating from awareness. Another sign is the way your environment begins to change. Not always in obvious ways, but in subtle adjustments that create space. Certain people may naturally distance themselves. Certain routines may no longer feel relevant. Opportunities to engage in situations that once distracted you may no longer appear. And while this can feel like loss at first, it is actually preparation. Because what is coming requires space, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. There is also an increase in your discernment that becomes almost undeniable. You begin to see through things more clearly. Conversations that once felt normal now reveal underlying inconsistencies. Behaviors that you once tolerated now stand out immediately. You no longer need time to process whether something is aligned. You recognize it in the moment. And this clarity does not come from overanalyzing. It comes from the internal work you have done, because you have learned to trust yourself. And this trust is what allows you to recognize your counterpart when they appear. There is also a shift in how you relate to your past. It no longer holds the same emotional weight. Memories that once triggered you now feel neutral. You can reflect without becoming attached. You can understand without needing to revisit. And this is important, because it means you are no longer carrying unresolved energy into your future. You are moving forward without being pulled backward. At the same time, you may feel a quiet anticipation that is difficult to explain. Not impatience, not urgency, but a sense that something is approaching. A subtle awareness that your current season is nearing a transition. You may not know what it looks like yet. You may not have any external confirmation. But internally, you feel it. And that feeling is not random. It is your alignment recognizing what is forming. There is also something else that begins to happen. You become more selective with your energy. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself to everyone. You no longer engage in conversations that do not contribute to your growth. You become intentional with where you invest your time, your attention, and your presence. And this selectivity is not isolation. It is preparation. Because the connection that is coming will require you to be present, not divided. And perhaps the most important sign of all is this: you feel complete within yourself. Not because everything in your life is perfect. Not because you no longer desire connection, but because you no longer feel incomplete without it. You have reached a point where you are not waiting to be fulfilled. You are already whole. And this is the state from which your divine connection is meant to begin. Because when two individuals meet from a place of wholeness, the connection is not built on need. It is built on alignment. So if you are noticing these shifts, do not overlook them. Do not dismiss them as coincidence. Do not question whether they matter. Because they do. They are the signs that your preparation is reaching its final stages. They are the indicators that your alignment is complete. They are the confirmation that what has been unfolding beneath the surface is now moving closer to manifestation. You may not see it yet. You may not know how it will happen. But you are closer than you have ever been. And when it arrives, you will recognize it, not because it overwhelms you, but because it matches the clarity you now carry within you. Type "I am ready" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 9191 is now confirming your alignment. There is a question that has likely crossed your mind more than once, even if you have not said it out loud. It is not just when will it happen, but how will it happen? Because after everything you have been through, after all the preparation, the waiting, the transformation, you begin to wonder what that moment will actually look like. How will you know? How will it unfold? How will this connection enter your life in a way that feels different from everything that came before? And the answer is not found in a dramatic event or a perfectly scripted moment. It is found in alignment. Because when this connection is orchestrated, it will not feel forced. It will not feel confusing. It will not feel like something you have to analyze repeatedly just to understand where you stand. It will feel natural, steady, and clear in a way that immediately distinguishes it from your past experiences. The moment of encounter will not rely on intensity to convince you that it is real. It will rely on consistency. You will notice that there is no need to question their interest, no need to decode their actions, no need to fill in gaps with assumptions. What is present will be clear. What is expressed will match what is shown. And this clarity will not overwhelm you. It will ground you. Because by the time this connection arrives, you will no longer be drawn to emotional chaos. You will be aligned with emotional stability. There will also be a sense of familiarity that does not come from past history, but from energetic alignment, a recognition that feels calm rather than urgent. You will not feel the need to rush into defining it, nor will you feel the fear of losing it if you do not act immediately. Instead, there will be space for the connection to unfold at a pace that allows both of you to remain present and aware. This is where the difference becomes undeniable. In your past, connections may have started quickly but lacked clarity, or they may have felt intense but unstable, or they may have required constant effort to maintain. But this connection will not follow those patterns. It will not demand that you prove your worth. It will not require you to compromise your growth. It will not place you in a position where you feel uncertain about your place within it. Instead, it will meet you where you are, and you will meet it without losing yourself. There will also be a mutual recognition of readiness, not perfection, not the absence of flaws, but a shared level of awareness. Both of you will have done enough internal work to approach the connection with clarity rather than projection. You will communicate with intention rather than assumption. You will respond with understanding rather than reaction. And this creates a foundation that allows the connection to build without unnecessary resistance. You may also notice that the circumstances surrounding your meeting feel aligned in a way that you cannot fully explain. Not because everything is ideal, but because the timing makes sense. The environment supports it. The situation allows it to grow without immediate obstacles. And this is not coincidence. It is orchestration. Because divine timing does not just bring people together, it brings them together under the right conditions. There is also something important you must understand about this moment. It will not feel like a solution to your life. It will not feel like something that completes you, because by the time you reach it, you will already feel whole within yourself. And this is what allows the connection to exist without pressure, without expectation, without the need to define it immediately. It will be allowed to develop, and this development is what makes it sustainable, because what is built slowly, with awareness and intention, has the strength to last. You will also notice that there is no need to chase or to hold on tightly. The connection will not feel like something that could disappear at any moment. It will feel stable enough to trust, even as it is still growing. And this trust is not blind. It is based on consistency, on communication, on the alignment you have both reached individually. This is what sets it apart. It is not about perfection. It is about alignment. So when this moment arrives, do not expect it to mirror your past experiences. Do not expect it to follow the patterns you have already outgrown. Do not expect it to require the same level of effort you once believed was necessary. Because this time, it will be different. Not because the connection itself is easier, but because you are different. You are more aware. You are more grounded. You are more aligned with what is real. And that is exactly why you will recognize it. Not through intensity, not through urgency, but through clarity. Type "I will recognize IT" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1010 is now aligning your recognition with truth. There is something you must understand about this connection that goes beyond everything you have imagined so far. It is not just about love. It is not just about companionship. It is not just about finally meeting someone who understands you. This union carries weight and carries purpose. It carries an assignment that extends far beyond the two of you as individuals. And this is why the preparation had been so precise, so intentional, and at times so intense. Because what is being formed is not just a relationship, it is a partnership. And not just any partnership, but one that has the potential to influence, to build, to create stability not only within your lives but within everything connected to it. The connection itself is the foundation, but what is built from it is the assignment. And that assignment cannot exist without alignment. This is why you were not allowed to settle. This is why past connections did not hold. This is why you were pulled away from situations that felt comfortable but were not aligned with your growth. Because what you are stepping into requires more than compatibility. It requires shared direction. There is something both of you carry individually that is meant to come together. La to compete, la to overpower, but to complement. Strengths that align. Perspectives that balance. Growth that continues even within the connection. And when these elements come together, they create something that is not just stable, but impactful. You may not fully understand what that impact looks like yet, and that is intentional. Because if you could see the full picture now, you might try to control it. You might try to rush toward it. But this assignment is not meant to be forced. It is meant to unfold naturally as the connection develops. What you need to understand is this: the relationship itself is not the final destination. It is the beginning of something greater. There will be moments within this connection that challenge you, not because something is wrong, but because growth does not stop when alignment is reached. It continues, and both of you will be required to remain aware, to remain accountable, to remain committed not just to each other, but to the purpose you share. This is where your preparation becomes essential. Because without the inner work you have done, without the stability you have developed, without the clarity you now carry, this level of connection could easily become overwhelming. It could become imbalanced. It could lose direction. But because of what you have gone through, you will be able to hold it. You will be able to navigate it without losing yourself. You will be able to grow within it without fear. And most importantly, you will be able to recognize that this connection is not just about what you receive, but about what you build together. There is also a level of responsibility that comes with this understanding. Because when something carries purpose, it must be protected. Not from fear, but from awareness. You will need to remain aligned with the values you have developed. You will need to continue applying the discernment you have learned. You will need to communicate with clarity, to maintain stability, to avoid falling back into patterns that no longer serve you. Because even aligned connections require effort. Not effort to prove themselves, but effort to sustain what is being built. And this is where your growth will continue to support you. You will not approach challenges the way you once did. You will not react from old patterns. You will not allow temporary emotions to disrupt long-term alignment. Instead, you will move with awareness, with intention, with a clear understanding of what this connection represents. There is also something else that must be acknowledged. This union is not isolated. It will influence your environment, your decisions, your direction. It will shift the way you approach your future. And because of that, it must be built on a foundation that is strong enough to support those changes. This is why timing mattered. This is why preparation was necessary. This is why everything had to align before it could begin. Because what you are stepping into is not temporary. It is not uncertain. It is not something that will come and go. It is something that is meant to remain and evolve. So when this connection fully enters your life, do not view it as the end of your journey. View it as the beginning of a new level of alignment. A level where your individual growth merges into shared purpose. A level where your connection becomes a foundation for something greater than either of you could build alone. And this is why it had to be prepared the way it was. Not rushed, not forced it, but built with intention. Because what is meant to last must be built to hold. Type "I accept the assignment" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1111 is now activating purpose within your union. Now you have reached the point where everything becomes clear, not just in understanding but in responsibility. Because this journey has never been only about what God is doing for you. It has always been about what you are becoming through it. And now, in this final moment, you are not being asked to wait passively. You are being called to act with awareness. Because preparation without participation is incomplete. Everything you have heard, everything you have felt, everything that has been revealed to you in this process leads to one question: what will you do with it now? This is where many people hesitate. Not because they do not understand, but because action requires intention. It requires consistency. It requires a decision to remain aligned even when there is no immediate external confirmation. And that is the difference between those who reach alignment and those who remain in cycles. You are being asked to stay anchored in what you have learned, to continue releasing what no longer aligns, even when it feels familiar, to maintain your standards, even when it would be easier to compromise, to trust your discernment, even when others do not understand your choices, because your environment will not always reflect your alignment immediately. There may still be moments where old patterns attempt to reappear. Old connections may try to re-enter. Situations that test your clarity may present themselves. And in those moments, your response matters. Not because it changes what is meant for you, but because it determines how quickly you step into it. You must remain consistent. You must remain aware. You must remain grounded in the version of yourself you have become. There is also something deeper you must hold on to. Your openness. Not an openness that accepts everything, but an openness that allows what is aligned to enter without resistance. Because sometimes, after a long period of preparation, there can be hesitation. A subconscious guard that questions what is actually right because it feels unfamiliar compared to what you have known before. But you must remember this. What is aligned will not feel like your past. It will feel different. And that difference is not something to fear. It is something to recognize. So do not close yourself off when clarity appears. Do not question stability when it presents itself. Do not search for flaws simply because you are used to inconsistency. Allow yourself to experience what you have been prepared for. At the same time, remain patient. Not passive, but patient. Because even now, as you stand at the edge of this transition, timing is still at work. The final details are still aligning. The moment is still being positioned. And your role is not to control it, but to remain ready for it. Readiness is not about doing more. It is about maintaining alignment. It is about continuing to show up as the person you have become, regardless of what is happening externally. Because when the moment arrives, it will not require you to become someone new. It will meet you exactly where you are. And that is why this instruction matters. Stay aligned. Stay aware. Stay open. Stay grounded in your transformation. Because everything that has been unfolding has been leading to this point. You are not waiting anymore. You are positioned. And what is coming will not need to be chased, forced, or questioned. It will meet you in alignment. Type "I am ready and aligned" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1221 is now sealing your preparation. And as this message comes to completion, understand this deeply. What has been spoken over your life is not just for you alone. There are others still in their wilderness, still questioning, still waiting for a voice that reminds them God has not forgotten them. When you release your support through Super Thanks or through the PayPal link in the description and QR code on the screen, You are not giving to a channel. You are sowing into a harvest of souls ready to awaken. The Lord declares, "Cast your bread upon the waters, and it shall return to you multiplied." And this is your moment to respond in faith, not hesitation. Let this be your first-person act of obedience. I choose to sow into what is transforming lives. Your seed becomes oil that keeps this light burning, reaching those who are one message away from clarity. Do not delay this moment. Give with purpose, give with conviction, and step into the flow of what God is multiplying through your obedience.